Retiring in Seattle, how difficult is that with the cost of everything today? When should you take Social Security? And the importance of keeping your retirement plan safe. All that and a lot more on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management, 42 combined years experience between these two in the retirement planning business. They're certified financial fiduciaries helping their clients get ready for retirement. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Each and every week we go over some of the hot stories when it comes to retirement planning. It has a lot to do with the economy. And again, we understand the concern that's out there. There's uncertainty, and we'll give you an opportunity to get on the schedule with Elevated Financial Management. These appointments we make available are cost-free. That means complimentary. You leave the checkbook at home. We'll tell you more about those as we move through, exclusive for our radio listeners. Gentlemen, welcome into the program. First and foremost, I normally ask you how your week was, but we've had a absolutely just jaw-dropping, earth-shattering type of week with the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Failed, thankfully, but there was a fatality and some critical injuries at that rally last week. Just your thoughts as we open up the show. I know that, just from standpoint of a host, you just feel like the country needs to start coming together. It's way too hot, way too volatile right now.
What I will say to that is, I think if you've been listening for any length of time, most of our listeners know Casey and I, we kind of take a politically neutral stand on this, but that it's just the world in general, not just here in the United States. Things are a mess, and you're right. Something has to change, right? And all I can say is, there are certain things that need to happen. I think we all would like to see more peace, more unity, just more love toward people, right? There's so much crime. We're going to talk about how expensive it is. Inflation is affecting everybody so very, very much, and it's making life really hard, and there is a lot of angst out there. There's a lot of anxiety about what to do, how to do it, what should we do, who's going to be the next president. We could go on and on about this, but I think, it's something, it's again, boils back to the same old simple thing. Do you have a plan?
Yeah, do you have a plan, right?
That's it.
That's it, because, whatever the circumstance is, right, whether it's something crazy like like the assassination attempt like you talked about, or it's a war on the other side of the world, or maybe something happening here, or it's inflation or whatever it is, all those things affect your retirement, right? That's the reality of it, because it affects our day-to-day lives. It has an impact on the economy. It has an impact on the market, as we've seen, right? So the reality is that's where that plan comes into play, and making sure that our retirement is secure despite what else may be going on. That's really what it boils down to. Because if we live and die, if our retirement success is founded on how well the market does, or just founded on the idea that the market is steady during our retirement, we're not setting ourselves up for success, right? And so, like Mark mentioned, right, there does need to be more peace. There does just need to be understanding of each other, right, and those kinds of things. But it's complicated, right? We're not going to solve all the world's problems on our show today, but hopefully we can help bring some peace of mind when it comes to the retirement planning aspect of it and how we shield ourselves from what's going on.
One of the things that I just like to maybe add is, we study the market, right? We do on each and every day. And one of the things last week was an article. We didn't talk much about it, but I was just thinking about as we were talking about all the political nonsense that's going on around the world and right here in the U.S. But it was interesting because it said that whether it's a Democratic president or a Republican president, if you kind of can tune out the noise, they both have had up and down periods. One is not worse necessarily than
Right.
the other. That's the interesting thing. So it really doesn't matter, right, in a lot of ways. Now, we all have our views on these things, right? But is it really going to change your financial future? That's the question, right? And so, again, we just want to bring some certainty to our clients' lives because it matters. That's what the problem is. People are uncertain about what to do, how to do it, when to do it, right? And we want to make it a little safer and a little easier for our listeners that want to figure this out.
I think that key word that you used was uncertainty.
Yeah.
And people are nervous. And,
Yep.
having a plan, having a route that you know you're going to be taking to and through retirement kind of gives that confidence to you. We talk about it each and every week. We also give you an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, and you can have these types of conversations. And that we know just by the numbers we've talked about in the last couple of months, there are a lot of you out there that are just sitting on portfolios. You're not planning at all. I mean, you have saved well. You've done amazingly well in that category. But as you inch closer to retirement, how's it all going to play out for you? You need to have that plan. So, and what I love about sitting down with Mark and Casey and each and every week when we start talking, they dive in and they really kind of dig into what's going on right here in the market, right here in Seattle, what's going on nationally, what's going to impact retirement. And we end up talking about it. And you're going to have questions about your situation, how it pertains to you. Grab one of these appointments when you get a chance. Again, the phone number to call is 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Now, if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Again, you're going to walk out with a written financial plan. There you go. Complimentary. 866-668-3625. All right. So the first on our radar, Seattle, where this show is originating from. It's not cheap to live, guys.
It's not, no.
Seattle is, it's a well-known city. There are a lot of people in Seattle that they might be looking at their numbers and going, you know what, I might not be able to retire when I want to.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there. We talk with our clients, and they're worried about their money lasting. And we tell clients pretty much every day and students that come to our workshop, if you've only got Social Security, this is a place that you're probably not going to be able to weather the storm. It's just not going to be possible from a financial standpoint.
It'd be really hard to pull something like that off here, right? Yeah.
Rents are so high. Inflation affects, no matter where we live. But here, if you don't have some money saved and have a couple of different sources of guaranteed income, it's going to be a struggle, right? And so that's what we want. In fact, one of the biggest fears is in this article that we're talking about right now. I love this statement. It's one sentence that says, a healthcare setback can be so expensive, and I don't want to be wiped out financially for my health. And this is a person that happens to live in West Seattle. So that's the biggest fear that a lot of people that would come in here is healthcare. How are you going to address that? A lot of us don't want to talk about it. They want to just kick the can down the road, right? Because nobody wants to talk and face their own mortality. It's just human, right? But if you don't, it can have a devastating effect on the plans that we draw out.
Yeah, I think too, Morgan, you said something just a little bit ago, and you mentioned that, maybe folks have been good savers, but, how it's invested is a big piece of the puzzle.
Sure.
We see that a lot, right? We see folks that come in, that listen to the radio show, see us on TV, come to the workshops that we teach at the various colleges, whatever it is. They come in, and a lot of them have been great savers. I mean, we have folks come in that have saved $1, $2, $3, $4 million for retirement. But a lot of times we do see that a number of that, or a good chunk of that money, is invested in like a cash type investment, right? Folks that work at Boeing, you'll recognize this, the stable value fund, right? We see folks that come in here that have $1 million in the stable value fund. The stable value fund is only paying a couple percent, right? So the question is why is the money there? And the answer really comes down to, well, I was worried, right? And I didn't really know what to do. I knew I didn't want to lose what I had, but I was worried that if I stayed invested, sure, there'd be some upside potential, but I might lose what I have, and that would decimate my retirement, right? We hear that a lot, and we get it, right? We do. We understand. But that's where the plan comes into play. And when we talk about retiring in Seattle and the cost that is associated with that, it's massive, right? And things are so different now. This is really interesting, I thought. There was somebody, their 61-year-old that lives in Renton. Their name is not shared, but it says, "My husband and I are eligible and able to retire. The factor that keeps us working is assisting with the support of our adult children.
Yeah.
Runaway inflation, the high cost of housing, food, and other basics makes it impossible for them to be as independent as we were at their ages." That right there just tells you how expensive life is. When you have an older generation continuing to work to help give the younger generation the same opportunities that they had because of the cost of everything, I mean, that's such a big deal.
Well,
right?
and that's across the country. That's happening everywhere.
Right.
The kids are having it. I mean, the medium home prices, first-time home buyers, it's almost impossible right now for them to get into that home. There's a lot of support coming from the parents that are trying to retire. I mean, these are things you've got to plan for. And speaking of, we've got appointments. They are complimentary. So, Mark, what's going to be in this meeting? Once you sit down, you get one of these appointments, what's going to happen?
Yeah, maybe if you save $250,000 or more, we want to just have a conversation. We're talking about being able to retire in Seattle. Maybe you're worried a little bit about your income. Maybe how much savings do you have? What about taxes? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the point is, please, we have a team of certified financial planners that will put together a plan just based on your specific situation. You keep your checkbook at home. It's not going to cost you a penny. So please pick up the phone and let's just have a conversation here at Elevated Financial Management.
This is an opportunity to stop kicking the can down the road, as Mark likes to say, and get to business, get down to it. And these are complimentary. If you've saved $250,000 towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number right now. Secure your appointment. 866-668-3625. Again, you're going to walk out with a written financial plan. That's 866-668-3625. These, again, are complimentary. 866-668-3625. When we return, more of the hot articles, the hot news stories when it pertains to retirement. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. 42 combined years experience for these two. You can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Again, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for retirement. They are certified financial fiduciaries, and they put up with me every week. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. We talk the talk, we walk the walk, though. We end up getting into these discussions about retirement, but we give you an opportunity to get on their calendar, and these are complimentary appointments for our radio listeners. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. And again, you can call at any time now that the show has started, and you can book one of these appointments. Claim it right now, 866-668-3625. Now, if you have not started planning, this is an excellent opportunity to get going on it. Or if you need that second opinion, call the number, 866-668-3625. So, guys, we started off the program talking about just the priciness of Seattle. And it can be very expensive. Yeah. And how some people are out there right now and they're saying, you know what, I don't know if I can retire when I want to retire because of the prices. You guys saw this. You wanted to talk about it. What's the next example you got for us?
Well, the next one that comes to mind is there's actually quite a few, to be perfectly honest with you. But there's a person, 60-year-old from Kent, and there's a couple things that they bring out. Here it says, at this point, I don't plan on retiring. I don't see any way that I could. It's just not in the cards. And he goes on to talk a little bit about Social Security, the averages of Social Security. I think you wanted to add a couple things on that side of it, right, Mark?
Yeah, I was just, that study showed that the average Social Security benefit is a little over $1,900 a month. And that's what, right now, the average rent for a one-bedroom in Seattle is. So you can imagine, if that's all you got, you're not going to be able to do it, right, unless you don't have to eat and you don't have to pay anything else, which we all know that's just not reality. So it's going to be very tough. The point is that so many are having to deal right now with the pain of regret, right? They didn't save like they wanted to. And I love, there's a couple in here they're not blaming anybody. They're blaming themselves because they kicked the can down the road, Morgan. They thought they had time. They didn't save. And that's why I truly appreciate Walmart a little bit. They will hire seniors, right? But why are so many seniors working at Walmart? We all know the answer to that, right? They didn't save enough, or there may be some really bad things have happened to them, but a lot of those were self-inflicted, right? And they're really dealing with that pain right now, and it's really sad to see.
So it's interesting. The same individual from Kent, under that portion of the article, it says between property tax, groceries, gas, and interest rates, you can't move, so you can't retire. So I think this is what's interesting. A lot of folks have the idea that, well, when I do retire, I'm going to downsize my house. I'll sell that. That's like a big asset for me, right? So I'll be able to keep some cash from that, get something a little smaller. You're going to have to move real far away, right? There's no close option that is actually a reality or something that you can pull off, or it's a massive downsize. But the reality is that even small places around here are very expensive, right? I mean, every house that's being built in the area, they all start at $1 million plus, right? I mean, there's no real quote unquote affordable options unless you're making money that can support that, right? So when it comes down to it, this is on you, right? You've got to figure this out. There's another one here, 64-year-old from Seattle. I think it was Anita was her name. Anyways, it says something right here that I thought was interesting. She cared for her parents at the end of their lives when they had scant financial resources. Her father, a psychologist, and her mother, a music teacher, thought they had prepared well for a comfortable retirement, but it wasn't enough, right? So, I mean, these are smart folks, right? Her dad, a psychologist, her mother, a music teacher, intelligent folks, right? And thought that they had done a well enough job to save for retirement. And here Anita is taking care of them, right? So, and that's not to say that that's the case for everybody, but we don't want that for anybody, right? That's the thing, right? When folks come in, we don't want that for anybody. That's not even a topic of discussion that we're going to entertain. We figure out a way to get away from that, right? That's the key. And what's really hard is that the current retiring generation, their parents may still be alive, so they're helping their parents. Yep. And we just talked about how hard it is for their adult children. So now
double
you've got,
whammy.
Yeah,
double,
right?
Yeah.
That's it, right? And so, they're likely at the highest earning potential of their lives in their 60s. Yeah. And so they're thinking, well, it makes sense for me to keep working. I can help mom and dad. I can help my kids. And that's an honorable thing, right? And we respect you for it. We think that's awesome that you want to do that. But the reality is your parents don't want that for you, and your kids don't want that for you, right? You got to have a plan. You got to have something put together so you can figure out how to make this happen for yourself.
Well, we have that analogy we've used so many times about just getting on the airplane and you go through the safety procedures. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes for retirement planning. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself first. Mm-hmm. And then you can lean in, help the kids, lean in, help your parents. Right. But you got to make sure you've got that oxygen mask on so you're not passing out because everybody's going down if that happens.
Right, exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up because I know that I still help care for my mom who's 90. She turned 90 in December. And so we don't really think about that sometimes, that how much we may need to spend out of our pocket or out of our retirement bucket to be able to help those that we love the most. And it can really have an effect. But if you've got a plan, we can show everybody that they'll be okay. But you need to have a plan so that you can address whether it's health care like we've been talking about, if that raises its ugly head. And right now we've talked about it here locally in our town, you're pushing $13,000 a month for one person if they need long-term nursing home, and it can even be more if it's 24-hour-a-day care in their own home. So again, these are things that you must be willing to address, and with a plan you're going to be able to do it.
Well, and you guys bang the drum every single week. It's about being proactive, being ahead of it, having that plan. Just starts with a conversation.
Yep.
What you have, what your goals are, and how you're going to put it all together. And again, it's all in the planning process. So this goes out to everybody that's done well saving and sitting on portfolios, but they haven't taken the step, and we know there are a lot of you out there, to start mapping it out. How's it going to go once those paychecks stop? Where is your income coming from? How are you going to create that in retirement? I want to switch gears a little bit because one of the puzzle pieces we talk about when we talk about putting the plan together is going to be Social Security. Mm-hmm. You guys mentioned it in the first article that we were talking about from the Seattle Times, the Price of Seattle piece, that the average, Social Security is going to be around $1,900 a month, which is a single bedroom out there in Seattle. So where's the rest of the money coming from? But as part of a plan, that Social Security is going to be a big part. It's going to be one of your pillars, and it's got to be able to fit into your overall plan. So one of your puzzle pieces.
Yeah. In fact, we call it the three-legged stool. You got Social Security, and if you're fortunate enough to have a pension, there's two of the legs, right? But the point is, are you maximizing your Social Security? And that always begs the question then, when should I claim? What's the claiming age that I want to go? Do I want to go at 62? Or is it 66 and maybe 6 months, whatever? Like I was born in 57, so that would be 66 and 6 months. Or is it 60? It could be as high as 70, right? But the point is, there are so many factors that will help you to determine which is the best for your age and for your specific situations.
And everybody's different. You guys talk
Yes.
about it all the time. Everybody's different.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. It's your circumstance, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Because like this study, I love this article. I think it's such an interesting article. And it just asks, is it better to take Social Security at 62, 67, or 70?
Yep.
And what it really boils down to, I'll give you the nuts and bolts. It says that age 70 is the runaway winner, right? So waiting till age 70 has the biggest impact for most folks.
But most people don't do that.
That's exactly right. Most people don't do it. And that's the thing, right? And we get why. We understand there's other reasons, there's other things going on. And the reality is this, when you look at the finance of it, in most circumstances, waiting till 70 is what is going to truly have the most impact, because that's the most money that you're going to get. But let's think about something besides that, right? Let's think about your personal life. We talk about the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years, right? And if you are in a spot where your go-go years are right now at 65, 66, 67, you're going to retire, and you do see that your health is fading quickly, that's the time to get the money, right? So waiting till 70 might maximize the dollars, but it's important to make sure that we understand how it applies in your life and in your circumstance.
I mean, it's so important.
Right.
And some people are going to need to take it early. Some people are going to need to take it on their year. Others are going to be able to wait until they're 70. And that is going to be a choice that's made as you put this plan together. Yep. And folks, it's one of those things where there aren't do-overs. I mean, you need to sit down and you need to make this decision. You need to make it work within your plan.
Yeah, that's it, right? And you got to have a plan. That's what that really boils down to. So, the key is if you'd like to, we'd love to have you come in, get a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. So what does that really mean? What it entails is you coming in, having a simple conversation with Mark and myself, the rest of our team. You can leave your checkbook at home. There's no cost to do that. We sit down and we talk about your circumstance. We talk about when to file Social Security specific for you. We talk about any pensions that you might have, the investments that you've built over the years, how you've invested, what you'd like your future to look like. This is key. What do you want your retirement to be? And then how can we help you build a plan to make your finances fit that? Yeah. So we'll build something custom tailored just for you. Our team of certified financial planners will talk about the risk that you're taking, the effect that taxes and inflation will have on you. There's a lot to discuss, but it's a simple conversation. It's no pressure. We have a very welcoming staff and environment. So leave your checkbook at home. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Call us now.
I met your new intern today.
You did.
Yeah, I tell you, a lot of energy in the office. I love that. Listen, I tell you, it's about helping people. It's about, getting your feet on the ground and getting moving on a planning process if you haven't started. Or if you're just frustrated, you're confused with your current advisor or advisory team, it is okay to get a second opinion. All right, here's the number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Call now, grab an appointment. We're back with more Elevate Your Wealth. We've got more articles coming up next. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle, Elevated Financial Management. Check us out online. It's a great resource website, efmnw.com. All letters, easy to remember, EFMNW.com. Links to the TV show Elevate Your Wealth, radio shows and podcast form are there for you. Great information on retirement planning, and also contact information. You can get in touch with Elevated Financial Management. Between Mark and Casey, 42 years combined experience, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for what is going to be their golden years, their end game, so to speak. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. We are going over some of the hot articles that are out this week, and we wanted to kind of wrap up our Social Security discussion. Again, the latest is the nuts and bolts of how your Social Security checklist and your check is calculated. So think about this, how it's all put together. Mark, you wanted to add a few more things.
Yeah, I just think there's a couple things that this subject probably raises more questions than anything else when it comes to our planning. One of the things that I want everyone to understand is when you claim matters. So let's talk about 62 for a second. A couple of the main reasons people are going 62 versus 70 are two main things. They believe Social Security could be going away, number one, and number two, they don't believe they're going to live long enough, so they want to grab their money now. But the reality is just the opposite. The average life expectancy, now we got a wonderful study from a actuary who I really have a lot of respect for, and she said if a female makes it to 65 now, life expectancy for that female is 88. Okay, now that's something to really think about. Why does that matter, right? Well, if you go at 62, you're going to give up 25% of your income forever, and that ends up being a lot. Now, that's not the big one in my book. The big one is if you decide you want to, maybe you get bored at 62 and I want to go back to work or find something part-time, do a hybrid type retirement that you didn't think about before you pulled the trigger on Social Security. Now you have to worry about an earned income test. Well, what does that mean? Well, this year's number is $22,340. For every $2 that you make over that, you would have to pay $1 of your Social Security back.
Ouch.
That's 50%, right? So again, so many don't think about that. We talked about they were winging it. They didn't have a plan. They didn't understand how many choices when they make these about Social Security can affect them. A spousal benefit. People don't understand how the spousal benefit works, which is what my spouse is going to get. When I turn mine on, she'll get 50% of mine. I have to be drawing for her to do that. The other thing is, even if I wait till 70, she only gets half of my 66 and 6 month number, not my 70 number. But it's the exact opposite as a survivor benefit. If I do wait to 70, she would get a spousal boost up to age 70 number. But that's not the case with the spousal. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered the right way. Otherwise, you can make a decision and not max out your Social Security, which is a major pillar of your three-legged stool, right? And if you mess that up, like you said, Mark, you may not be able to fix it. We only have 12 months where we can go back and use the golf analogy, you get a mulligan.
Yeah.
If you hit one in the muck or in the cack, what I call the cack, well, I can tee it up again, right? And hopefully put one in the fairway.
If you ever play golf with me, I use a lot of mulligans, all right? Yeah, that's my go-to move.
But there's a guy in my group that says, oh, it's time for a breakfast ball, and I go, you're going to be paying for that breakfast.
Yep, exactly. So you don't want, in this one, it can be a painful financial mulligan, right? You only have 12 months to fix it. Once 1 year goes by, there is no going back and going, well, I wish I wouldn't have done that, right? So again, these decisions can really affect your income over a long period of time.
Yeah, it's just, I think so many folks just don't think it through, right? That's the thing. And it's almost like it's money that's there. I got to grab it while I can. I'm going to get that, right? But sometimes the idea that you've worked for it, I think, is kind of lost on people, right? You've earned the Social Security, right? You've paid into it. You've built that. Maximize it. Don't wing it. That is potentially one of the biggest pieces of income, or at least a chunk of your income in retirement. Make sure that you maximize it for your situation, right? Like I said earlier, when it boils down to it, if you just want to look at the dollars and cents of it, if you live long enough, age 70 will get you the most money. Does that mean that's the right thing for you? I couldn't say, right? It all depends on your individual circumstance.
Well, and how long you live, right? Because
That's it, right?
That's the other thing.
That's it. That's why it's all dependent on your circumstance, right? We don't know that, right? So waiting till age 70 will get you the most money as long as you live long enough, right? Which is about 12 to 13 years. So in most circumstances, if you make it to age 82 or 83, then from there you come out ahead by waiting to age 70, right? And that works every single time. But taking it earlier can have a positive impact on your life as well, even if you do live that long, right? But there's different strategies that we can use. And, something that we bring into play a lot is right now, there's a lot of volatility in the market. It seems like there kind of just is always volatility in the market for the last few years, right? That's just how it is. And things have been good, fairly recently, which is great. But if we're in a period of time where the market is up, why not take money out of your qualified accounts and let your Social Security that's guaranteed to increase, let it continue to roll up, and then take it later when the market falls, right? And use that as an income source instead of pulling from your retirement account. So the idea here is that there's different options.
Right.
But usually a lot of those options are lost on the general public without having that specific conversation, right? And it's worth having the conversation to figure it out.
I'd like to maybe add to what Casey just said. That doesn't even, he didn't even touch on the tax aspect of it.
True.
What if we use money in a qualified plan? We know the Social Security is rolling up at 8%. We're not guaranteed 8% on our qualified money. Why not use some of that money to equal what I would have been getting in Social Security, pay tax at the lowest rate you're ever going to see, which in the long run puts more money in your pocket. So again, some of these things, you just need to have somebody that can really help with a true plan and one that will address taxes, because if you don't deal with taxes, you're going to probably regret that big time.
Retirement doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, things are going to occur in our environment that's going to change things for you. You need to make sure you have a plan, and that's a customized plan. And you're going to be different from anybody else. Or if you're retiring as a couple, your situation, your puzzle, all your puzzle pieces, they're going to be different. So why not? Work with pros, work with a fiduciary, and map this out. Now, the opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management is ongoing during the course of this show. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, claim an appointment right now. They're complimentary, 866-668-3625. That number again, 866-668-3625. You're going to walk out with a written financial plan. Again, you're leaving the checkbook at home. Call the number, 866-668-3625. Again, 866-668-3625. So the article so far that we've hit, guys, pricey Seattle, many older adults eligible for retirement. They have to keep working. And then you've got Social Security, the nuts and bolts, and how your Social Security check is calculated. And this last one we're going to get to on this show is just the importance of keeping your retirement plan simple. So let's get into this.
Well, the first thing is to have a retirement plan, right?
Can't get
Plan, yes.
Right.
Sit down with a fiduciary.
Actually, I can tell you why this article stuck out to me. One of the first things it says, a financially secure retirement begins with having an effective retirement plan, right? That's it right there.
That's peace of mind.
That is, yeah. Now, there's a couple things that come to mind, right? When it comes down to it, Mark and I talk about this a lot. We want folks to have confidence, clarity, and independence in their retirement, right? You can't be confident, you can't be clear, and you can't have independence in retirement if your plan is so complicated you don't understand it, right? It's going to take away. So your plan has to be simple enough that you can understand it. But in reality, that's where somebody in the industry can help you put something together. Now, it talks about 3 stages to our financial lives, right? The accumulation stage, the preservation stage, and then finally the distribution stage. So the accumulation stage, that's when you're saving for retirement. That's what most people are used to. They're used to investing in a way for accumulation, and it's typically the longest time frame, right? When we think about those different stages. So accumulating is one piece of that financial puzzle. The next piece is preservation, and that's when we're approaching retirement, the first few years of retirement. We have to keep the money that we've earned, right? And we talk about this all the time because it's vitally important. if we lose the money that we built in the accumulation phase, if we lose that during when we should be in preservation, we're going to be going back to accumulation, right? You don't want to go backwards in these stages. That's not the goal, right? You want to get to the distribution phase where that is when you start to spend the money and you get to go live your life and do all the fun things that we talk about in retirement. And so it's important to recognize what stage you're in and have a plan that matches that and helps walk you through those different pieces. So a proper plan will help to do that and account for inflation and account for living expenses and all those kinds of things as you think about those different stages of retirement.
Yeah, I was just going to add maybe a little bit. Casey touched upon the distribution phase, right? Because since pensions are pretty much a thing of the past, you've got to figure out how to take that chunk of money that you have in that 401k or that 403b, how do I turn it into income that will, like we talk about a paycheck for life, right? Mm-hmm. How are we going to do that and make sure that that check is guaranteed? That's what we're talking about. How do I create income with the funds that I've saved up in probably our biggest asset, maybe separate from our home, is going to be in all of our qualified plans. So do you have a way and a plan to do that? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece, right? It's paycheck replacement. And that's the thing. That's what makes the distribution phase so complicated. And I think the financial world does a bad job of talking about this, but I think it's important. There's a reason that people are uneasy about retirement. It's not just because of the risk and the inflation and all those things. That's absolutely a part of it. But it's also because inherently you realize this is different, and I haven't done this before, right? You know that, right? I don't have to tell you that, but it's not really talked about, and it is different. You're now turning the assets that you've been growing into income, and you want to do so in a reliable, comfortable way. Yeah. And so inherently and so you've got to have that conversation.
Yeah, and we're going to let Mark tell us about these appointments, but I look at these stages, the accumulation, the preservation, and the distribution. I think we have a large number of people that are going straight from accumulation to distribution. They don't have the preservation. They don't have a plan.
That's it.
So listen, opportunity right now to get on the calendar, Mark. What's going to happen?
Please, if you're maybe concerned about the distribution phase or the preservation phase, please pick up the phone, give us a call. All we want to do is have a conversation. You're going to get to leave your checkbook at home. We'll talk about taxes a little bit. We're going to talk about where your income is going to come from, but you got to pick up the phone. So please know that we're in this for the long haul. We become partners with our clients. So please pick up the phone, give us a call, let us help.
All right, here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. I'm going to slow it down for you. Write this number down, 866-668-3625. One more time, 866-668-3625. These are complimentary appointments. Leave the checkbook at home, 866-668-3625. When we return, it's time for retirement scenarios. We'll see what the gentlemen come up with. On Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Elevated Financial Management, where you can find them right here in Seattle. Check us out online. Great resource website, EFMNW.com. Easy to remember, and all letters, EFMNW.com. Again, the TV show links are there for you, Elevate Your Wealth. Also, radio shows and podcast form. Again, a lot of information. You can kick the tires there for sure. Between Mark and Casey, 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for said retirement. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate, each and every week, back and forth on the topics. Each and every week, an opportunity for you to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management and see where you are in your planning process. And there are a lot of you out there that haven't really started. You're still in the starting gate. You're waiting for the bell and heading off into retirement, but you don't have a plan. Excellent opportunity for you to get rolling on that, and it's complimentary. Or if you're in the middle of something, need that second opinion, one of these appointments is for you as well. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number now and claim an appointment, 866-668-3625. One more time, slow it down for you, 866-668-3625. All right, it's time for scenarios, gentlemen. Casey, we'll start with you. Myself and my husband are married filing jointly. We make about $150K combined and are in our late 40s. Neither have a 401k, but we do have about $30K in a traditional IRA and $50K in an HSA. I still need to make the $6,500 IRA contribution for this past year. Should I put it in my IRA, my traditional IRA, or maybe a Roth? Thanks.
I think to answer that real straightforward, when it comes down to IRA versus Roth, I don't think you're ever going to look back and wish you had less tax-free money, right? Yep. So
exactly.
That has happened 0 times when it comes to our planning for clients, right? So the more you can get into a Roth, the better. We are big believers in the Roth. We do think that there may be some legislation in the future that gets rid of it, right? So now is the time to take advantage of it. I think there's maybe some other things, though, right? When I think about this scenario, Morgan, sounds like we've got some decent income here. $30,000 saved in an IRA and $50,000 in an HSA. I don't think we need to probably keep saving in the HSA, right? We can maybe spend some of that down and instead focus that savings into retirement accounts, right? I love the tax-free aspect of an HSA. Mm-hmm. The value is there. I am in full support. By no means am I saying we shouldn't have HSAs, but we also want to make sure that there's going to be money for you later in retirement. And if we're saving too much in an HSA and not enough in a retirement account, we're going to back ourselves into a weird corner, right? So we want to save more in that retirement account, ideally in the Roth side as much as possible. And then that's going to help you get set up to actually have that retirement. Now, the HSA is still something that we can contribute to, but just at like that imbalance, right? Usually we see people have X amount saved in an IRA, $500,000 in an IRA, and they've got $8,000 in an HSA, right? So we're kind of very opposite of that. We got $30,000 in an IRA, $50,000 in an HSA. We need to redirect some of those funds that we're saving in the HSA, put that in the IRA, or better, even better, into the Roth as much as possible. Right?
What I would like to add to that is they're saving, right?
Absolutely.
We want to be positive about that, right? That's a lot better than not doing anything. But Casey mentioned it. You want to know what that chunk of money specifically is going to do, right? And if you have a plan for that, and we do that with all the seniors. The one thing we will say about the Roth, depending on your age, if you're a lot older, the Roth may not have near the benefit that it does for somebody in their 40s. So again, situation's unique to you. You need to talk with somebody that's really good on the tax side of things that can help you put together a plan that's going to really work well and deal with guys that know what they're doing.
Yeah, we want to point out, too, as we go over these scenarios, you may hear a scenario that's similar to what you're going through, but it's not exactly what you're going through. That's why we talk about the importance of having that customized plan for yourself or the couple that's retiring together. Again, these scenarios, we're just going to throw these at the fellows and see what they come up with, kind of give you an idea. You can kind of just, the wheels start turning. They start talking about things that you can do. And hopefully you're out there and you're going, you know what? I need to get going on my thing. I've got all this acquirement. It's right there in my portfolio, but I haven't started the planning process. And it's easy to grab an appointment with the guys. 866-668-3625 is the number to call. That's 866-668-3625. These are complimentary. You leave the checkbook at home, and again, you're going to walk out with a written financial plan. And if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, grab one right now, claim it, 866-668-3625. Next scenario, Mark, to you. My husband passed away 6 months ago, left me a significant amount of life insurance. It's much more money than we ever had during our 30 years of marriage. What is the best first step for me to take in deciding how to handle all of this financially speaking?
Both Casey and I would probably say to just step back and take a really deep breath.
Yeah.
Right? What we don't want to do is make decisions, especially on a nice tax-free chunk of money that you just got. This is why we love life insurance for situations like this, because it can create the ability to use money that you never thought you would have, or possibly. Now, it took a tragedy, right, for this to happen. But the point is, that person took care of somebody that he loves very, very much. So how do we deal with that? Like as you mentioned here, it's not easy. One of the things I will say, if you get a chunk of money in a life insurance, you're going to find all your relatives and friends are going to come out of the woodwork, and they're all going to give you supposed ideas on the best way to spend it and what they should do with it. We would say again, slow down. Don't listen to all the noise. Now, we love our family, right? But I would tell you, you need to find somebody that specializes in this field, has not a stake like family members do into what you should do with the money, because we always tell our clients, what do you want this chunk of money to specifically do? Then once we determine that, then we're going to find the vehicle that is going to be the best one to solve that problem or that issue. It could be another life insurance policy, or it could be an annuity, or it could be putting it in the market, right? There's a lot of different options, but what we need to do is just talk about it, really think about it, and put together a plan so that you don't blow that money. And that can really happen, because my mother actually did that.
Yeah, potential best fits for the scenario that you're in. And the other thing we want to remind you, too, is a lot of people get intimidated. They don't want to talk about their finances. In the end, you're going to decide what happens. They're going to advise. The guys are going to advise, and then you decide on what you want to do, because it is your money. All right, here is our next scenario. Casey, to you, I just got $75,000. It's sitting in my checking account at the bank. This is not part of my emergency fund. What can I do with this money to put it to work for me?
Well, that's a great question. There's so many choices. There's so many options, right?
It depends
That's the thing,
on
right?
your scenario.
It depends on your circumstance, right? It really does. There's lots of things you could do, right? I mean, very easily you could do a CD, right? I mean, CD rates are great right now. I love the protection that a CD offers. You can get great rates. There's a number of different websites you can use to compare different companies that we like to use. That's one choice. If you've got a little bit more of an appetite for some risk, you could look to the market for that. A market could offer different investments and all varying levels of risk and time frame. But I think that's really the key, right? Is what's your time frame for the money? If that $75,000 is just going to become part of your retirement plan, part of your retirement funds, and you don't need that money for 10, 15, 20 years or something like that, well, then the market's probably the best choice. If you need that money in the next couple of years, then a CD would be a good option. There's also something that's called a MYGA, M-Y-G-A, stands for Multi-Year Guaranteed Annuity. It's very similar to a CD, offers good rates, and typically for a longer time frame, right? So, I mean, there's a number of things that you could do with it. Now, outside of the investment world, there's other things that could be had. If you're already in retirement, you got $75,000 sitting in the bank, you don't need that for income. How can you use that to increase your life somehow, right? Is that a trip that you can take with your family? Is that money that you could gift to your kids and help them out in their lives, right? So there's a lot of things that could be done with that money. And really, it's dependent on what you're looking to do. And back to the illustration that you talked about earlier, Morgan, on an airplane, right? The first thing we want to do is make sure that we're taken care of. So if we are thinking about gifting or trips together or something along those lines, we've got to make sure that your income is set first, right? So if that $75,000 is needed for your retirement, then that's where it should go, right? But if you don't need it there, then there's lots of choices, right? There's lots of things that you could do with it.
Something else to just quickly add to that is, Casey kind of touched on it, it's age-based, right? The older we are, we're going to have a different need for that money, right? So we believe in the rule of 100, which for a lot of our clients, it's simply take the age, subtract it from 100, and that's the amount of money that we would want to have at risk. The younger you are, right, the more what we call the red money, the money that's going to be used long-term, like Casey was mentioning. So again, age is really important to know what maybe should be some of the things that you should think about. We need to get a little more conservative as we get older.
Yeah, and again, it's all about having a plan. It needs to be customized to you. Your situation is going to be different from anybody else's. So, and be open-minded when you come in and sit down, because there are going to be some suggestions made. So be open to that as well. Final scenario, we'll hit it real quick. Mark, when people give the general goal for retirement is 75 to 85% of your working income, you hear that a lot. Is that net or gross, and does that still hold true?
All I'm going to say, Casey would say, I think the same thing. We don't know. It's unique to you. Some people are retiring with 100% of what they were bringing in at
Or
the end.
110 or 120%, right? I mean, it's so circumstantial.
It
yeah.
is. And a lot of it we talked about, like living in Seattle. Well, in Seattle, you want a bigger number, right? Where living in maybe New Mexico or Jackson, Mississippi or somewhere else could be a lot less money. So it just depends on your circumstances and your cash flow needs. That's really going to determine how much income you really want in retirement. So just think about it, because it's going to be unique to you.
Well, it's that time. We're going to open up the appointments. They are complimentary. Casey, you're going to tell us how it's going to go. And again, this is about you and helping you with your retirement.
This is your opportunity to get the plan that we're always talking about, right? So we think you need a plan to be successful in retirement. We're happy to help you do that. We start from an analysis perspective. So we're first going to x-ray your investments, your portfolio, your setup, and figure out what you've got going on, and then talk with you about where you'd like to be, what you'd like to do in retirement, what the goals really are, and then how to make the money fit your lifestyle. That's the key. So it's a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. It's no cost. We're happy to help.
Here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. Again, 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, claim an appointment now, leave the checkbook at home, 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books. For Casey and Mark, I'm Morgan Patrick. We will see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.